Welcome to this episode of Whiskey and WealthTech. I'm your host, Alex Serman, Managing Director of Wealth and Institutional here at First Rates. Today, I am joined by Bruce McKenzie of Northern Trust. Bruce, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here with you, Alex.
So, Bruce, you're a beer guy, not a whiskey guy. So, today we've kind of taken a detour into one of the cousins of whiskey and dived into beer. So, what are we drinking today?
We're going to be drinking some Guinness, and Guinness has a special place in my heart. My father's family came from Ireland back in the mid 1850s, around the time of the potato famines. And I've been able to go back to Ireland on a couple of occasions. And on my last trip, just last fall, I visited the Guinness factory. So I got to actually see how they brew it so carefully and so completely in Ireland. And so it's one of my favorite drinks. It always tastes a little better when I'm in Ireland than it does outside of Ireland, but I'm glad to drink it wherever I am.
Absolutely. I was going to ask if the rumor's true, it is better in Ireland.
I actually was on a plane trip where I had a Guinness at the Dublin airport. This was 5 years ago on a different
Mhm.
trip. And as soon as I landed, I went to a local pub in my hometown and had a Guinness there. And it clearly tasted better at the airport than it did in the US. And I think that's due to preservatives and other
Uh,
factors, but it is better over there.
that's good to know. Well, with that, we'll dive into our Americanized versions of Guinness we picked up here. So, cheers to that.
All right. Cheers.
Mm. See, I love Guinness as well, and when I drink beer, I'm more of a stout, darker beer kind of guy, and so I really like
Yep.
just how smooth and creamy this is, and just really, really excellent, easy going, easy to go to beer for me.
Agreed.
But I found out there's a lot of rules actually when it comes to Guinness. So when you go to a proper Irish bar and order a Guinness, they do the two-step pouring of it out of the tap.
Always.
And,
Always. Yep.
it's exactly 119.5 seconds in total to pour Guinness. I don't think I took as long. I did try to pour it into a glass. The cans that we got here always it suggests it's best poured into a glass. Uh,
Yep.
so I try to do that, but you do it three-quarters of the way up, let it settle, then top it off, and then you're supposed to drink it in 4 to 8 sips. So I don't know if we're gonna follow either of those rules today.
I know when you go to many pubs in Ireland, as well as at the Guinness factory, they have timers that are there to make sure that you have appropriate settling when you pour it. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever done it in 8 sips exactly or 4 sips exactly, but
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, I don't drink very fast, so I think I'd get made fun of quite a bit if I attempted to do that. But so now that we're enjoying our drink, Bruce, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and how'd you get here?
Yeah, I've been living and working in Chicago for close to 40 years now. Came here for graduate school and then started working at the Northern Trust Company, which is a large global financial institution, started back in 1889. So it's been around for 135 years. Actually, our birthday is August 12th, so we're getting close to another birthday here. And I haven't been here all of those 135 years, but I have been here for 37 of those years. And for 35 of those years, I've been a trust advisor and senior fiduciary officer and manager of different parts of our wealth management business. And on the personal side, I've been married for 28 years. I have three sons who are 25, 22, and 17. And so I feel at times I'm in a little bit of a rut being at the same job in the same company for 35 plus years, but it's a good rut. I've enjoyed my rut. So
Well, it's if you've been there for 35 years, it sounds like it must be a really good gig, at least.
it's been a good place to have a career.
So with a name like Northern Trust, trust is obviously in the name and it is a trust firm. And so I'd like you to dive in a little bit about like what kind of significance does trust play up there at Northern, and just
Yeah,
kind of
it is a
these
pretty
firms in
significant,
general?
very significant concept as a company, and I think for me as an individual. Northern was founded by the Smith family, the Byron Laughlin Smith family in 1889. And it was really family run, family owned for the first 80 to 90 years. And even though it did go on the stock exchange in the 1960s, the NASDAQ, but there's a certain set of corporate values that really reflect family values. And I'm very familiar with those family values because I was the lead trust advisor for over 200 living descendants of Byron Laughlin Smith for about a 15-year period. And I can see how they made their imprint on us. And in many ways, our culture is somewhat unique as a trust company or as a financial company, that we now administer over $15 trillion around the world. And we've never had any major mergers, acquisitions, restructurings. We've had smaller acquisitions and obviously changes along the way. But we're one of the few truly global organizations that has grown organically during that time. We've actually grown best during tough times. Some of our biggest times of growth are during World War I, World War II, during recessions, because we're known as a place of stability. We're known as a place that people can trust. And so often, when there's difficult times in the economic markets, people will come to Northern Trust because they know that we can be relied on. So our corporate motto for at least the last 100 years that I'm aware of is service and expertise and integrity. And I would also say there's a very healthy amount of trust that's part of who we are as a trust company. So our name, our legacy, our history is all kind of tied up in that whole concept of trust.
And so how do you cultivate trust then, not just with your clients, but just, with your employees, with other members of the organization? So here at First Straight, we have what we call our 3 C's in our stakeholders,
Yep.
clients, our communities, and our coworkers. And so, being at Northern Trust, how do you cultivate that with, your stakeholders?
No, that's a great question, and it's something that it does have to start from the inside out. That if you don't have trust inside your company, you're not going to really be able to have trust outside your company. And Northern has a fair amount of required training at all different levels about our corporate culture, about what it means to be trustworthy, what it means to take care of our clients, what it means to protect our clients' data and having confidentiality and making sure that our clients are taken care of, as well as very significant protocols about who we can share client information with and how we can share that information. And so Northern has always tried to maintain a culture, and through both, some of it is caught rather than taught. I think there's been a lot of similar to me, a lot of longtime employees at the Northern. Even though I've been here 37 years, I was just up in our cafeteria talking to a guy who'd been here 40 years. I was just doing an email with another guy who's been here 43 years. I got in the elevator recently with someone else who'd been here 37 years that I never even met in our 37 years at Northern together. So there's a lot of corporate culture that is kind of part of that stability we have and our low turnover. But it's also something that we have a very significant training program, and it's always adjusting in different ways. We recently went to a little bit of a different corporate culture focus, and really talking more about being respectfully candid and being client-centric. And there's always different buzzwords that are coming up that just to kind of help keep it, I think, fresh, so that you don't slip into any ruts or you get some kind of mission drift in terms of what you're doing. So, but there's a very conscious effort from all the way from the very top, all the way down through middle management and management to kind of maintain those values of service, expertise, and integrity in a modern context with our clients, with our coworkers, and with our vendors and our stakeholders, our shareholders. That it all kind of flows out from that. But it starts from inside the company and then kind of radiates out from my perspective.
Yeah. And so, so your clients trust you because that's something that you've really cultivated internally. That's something you're consciously working towards to be that trusted advisor and that trusted source. So that way, to your point, when there are major economic shifts, when things aren't going well, your clients and your coworkers know that they can rely on Northern Trust to be there to support them and to hold their best interests at heart, really. And
No, that's exactly right. And I think one of the benefits of our corporate culture is that there's and relatively low turnover is you do have situations like mine where I've worked with a number of multi-generational families for more than 30 years. So I worked with the grandparents and then the kids and then the grandkids, and now I'm working with some of the great grandkids. And you really develop a very deep personal and professional relationship with these clients over many years. So when something does go wrong, you've built up a lot of credit
mhm,
that they know you're going to make it right. They know you weren't intentionally trying to do something wrong, and they know that you will do what's right. And that's a very important part of our culture as well. To do what's right in all circumstances, and to be quick to apologize and admit when you've done something wrong.
absolutely. And so trust only isn't just within interpersonal relationships with each other and with our clients, things like that, but it's also with our tools and our technology. And so kind of bringing this into a wealth tech focus. So AI, machine learning, big buzzwords that have been coming up over the last couple of years. A lot of the guests on this, this podcast have really talked about the significance of the rise of AI. But a lot of the concerns that people have brought have been around being able to trust it, being able to use it and understand it. And so, tell me a little bit more about kind of your thoughts around the trust in
No, that's
technology and
yeah,
AI
that's
and
great. Yeah, it's a great issue, and Northern spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year on technology in various ways, which is necessary, both in terms of cybersecurity as well as
Mhm,
for being able to serve our clients better. And like any new technology, AI and different variants of it can definitely have a lot of potential for much good,
mhm,
but there's also challenges and risks in terms of how that's executed. And I think we try to keep in mind that AI is a predictive technology. It's not a thinking technology, that
mhm.
it's always trying to predict something based on past information or data or whatever it has. And so you got to be very careful to still have a fair amount of human oversight as you
Uh-huh.
use AI, because it's not foolproof. And I could give you examples of many errors, as I'm sure you could as well, when things.
Mhm,
I mean, one of the more significant examples I heard of recently, just at a seminar last month, was a situation where, through some AI generation in a multinational corporation, I don't know which one, there was a CFO who literally was fooled by a video, a virtual meeting that he thought was with the CEO of his company, that was on on a Zoom or Teams call with other members of management, and he was fooled by both the voice and the visual. They ended up transferring $27 million based on certain direction that he got from that, and it turned out the whole thing had been generated by someone. So it just was a small example about just how careful you have to be, and how sophisticated AI already is in trying to deceive and to corrupt and to create challenges. So there's a lot of good that can happen through it.
mhm,
Certainly in the airline industry, certainly in the medical field. I mean, AI has been incredible. I mean,
mhm.
I've heard different testimonies about why we haven't had a major plane crash in the U.S., and a lot of it's related to AI over the last 20 years, as well as other sectors of our economy. But it's still a work in progress, very, very much so.
Absolutely. Yeah, we like to call it a decision enablement tool, not a decision making tool.
That's a
And
great distinction. That's a great distinction.
I also heard a seminar on this recently as well that kind of using the old adage of trust but verify with
Yes.
the AI, and that the new, we've got a lot of different skills that you need to learn. And, as different generations are growing up and technology is changing, the types of skills you need are different. And one
Yep.
of the new skills that people need is good prompts writing skills. And so when you're working with AI, being able to um, actually give it the right information of what you're looking for in a way that it'll give you good info. Because, if you
Yeah.
put garbage
Garbage in,
in,
garbage out. You got to make sure good information is going in if you want to get good information coming out. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So I think that's going to be very interesting, and how that shapes how we trust our technology, how we trust one another. And, do we get to a point where we do trust AI to really help define our businesses and
Yeah.
shape how we, manage money for our clients, how we, do all that we're doing for them um, in a way that works and everybody can trust that it's working correctly.
And that really is critical. I mean, we have over the last few years, we've had a very deliberate program of trying to educate our clients on technology in general, and some of our products in particular. We've certainly tried. I mean, one of the things that we need to include on every agenda versus every client are cybersecurity risks, and just making sure people are aware that a lot of our procedures and protocols are for their benefit, even if it may end up, taking a little more time to do a particular transaction. It may not make sense, but with all the different bad actors that are out there, well, we figure one way to really build trust with our clients is for them to really know that we're taking all these extra steps for their benefit, connected with technology and AI and other things, so that they aren't going to be taken advantage of in some negative way.
Absolutely. Yeah, always going that extra mile certainly helps build that relationship and build that trust to show that you are doing the things that you need to do to keep everything safe.
Exactly.
And so you've had the opportunity to present to others at Northern Trust on the topic of trust and what it means to you and how you've personally been impacted by that. So I kind of want to see, do you have like a defining example that that's really been impactful to you over your years, either at Northern Trust, outside of Northern Trust, that's really helped define your outlook on trust and how that's really shaped the way you view it and kind of live your life?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I do speak periodically at Northern on different panels, and I'm part of different trust schools and different. I talk about fiduciary policies. I talk about a lot of different things. I'm not sure I've ever had such a strong reaction, positive reaction, to one of my talks as I did to this whole concept of building trust, and just really focusing on 5 core behaviors in terms of how you build trust. With yourself, with your clients, with your coworkers, with your family, with others, and sort of briefly defining what it means to have good self-trust, what it means to have good and caring intentions, what it means to build up sort of daily trust accounts, what it means to act with integrity, what it means to speak honestly, but really having that combination of character and competence that really leads people to trust you. And so it's hard for me to single out just one particular thing. I mean, for me, I shared some examples in my talk about ways in which I felt clients demonstrated to me that I developed that trust, inviting me to multi-day wedding events and asking to speak at the funeral of clients that have passed away, and a younger beneficiary telling me that I've worked with her family for 30 years. There's only 3 people she really trusts: her father, her husband, and me. Things like that mean a lot to me. But as the old saying goes, it can take 20 years to build trust and 5 years to destroy it if you don't maintain it and keep up those consistent behaviors. And just how important it is to have that daily awareness that you need to always be making deposits into the trust account of every relationship, because there's going to be inevitable withdrawals. Again, to use the banking analogy, that there are going to be times when things go wrong, and that's going to take out something from that deposit that you might have made before that, and just hoping there's enough of a balance that you don't have a big overdraft. Again, but to use the banking imagery, and also just believing when you do have a high level of trust, communication is easy and fast, and everything flows well. And so it really, you can see the positive side as well as the negative side when the trust is not there, and how hard it can be to get something done because nothing goes smoothly.
I totally agree. And I've seen that myself, dealing with clients, dealing, outside of work relationships. When the trust is there and there's a lot of communication, it's so much easier to work through things, even if something goes wrong. People know we're there, we're going to fix it. And it just makes life so much easier. But when that trust isn't there, it just slows everything down. It's so much harder to get even the little things done. And so I do think trust really does improve the speed in which we can work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the challenges of technology, is that it's a bit harder sometimes to develop those personal relationships,
Mhm.
because more and more of your communication is either through text or emails or different means that you're not really interacting as personally with people. And so the more virtual interactions and real interactions you can have, I think both in the workplace as well as in the community and with your clients, the more you can build the trust. I do think trust is a very much of a person to person type thing. You're building trust one person, one place at a time, and it's just very important to not think that you can kind of somehow leverage that or magnify that through a lot of other technology means, because often that doesn't help.
Yeah, in this case, technology does not always mean scalability when it comes
Yeah, exactly.
to
That's it.
trust.
Yep, a good way to put it. Yep.
So our final question, we've talked a little bit about technology, about some of the things that are going on and how that, impacts, how we work and how we live. In your opinion, what's the biggest trend that's going to be in wealth management or wealth technology over the next couple of years? And, kind of what do you see happening, with your clients and, going on with
Yeah,
what you're doing?
yeah, and that's a tough one because there's a lot of different trends that are going on out there, and I do see a number of trends kind of converging in some ways. I mean, there's more and more complexity regarding investments. There's more and more sophistication in technology in terms of measuring, monitoring, and using different tools for investing. I mean, the biggest trend I see, and I work in the high end, most of my clients are in the 100 million plus range.
Mhm.
It is trying to work with them so they understand what they have, and then be able to make good choices, good decisions about their wealth, because they ultimately have three choices. They can either consume it, they can contribute it to family or charity, or they can have it consumed or have it confiscated by the government or by others. And so trying to give them good advice using the technology and tools we have. And for Northern, we've invested hundreds of millions in our goals-driven wealth management platform that
Mhm.
is really our main vehicle, using all the technology that we have to really help clients evaluate a lifetime of goals versus a lifetime of assets, and whether they do have sufficiency, and if they do have sufficiency, how do they want to allocate that sufficiency over a period of time so that they can have peace, they can sleep well, and they can focus on the things that are important to them, which are usually not, what the S&P is doing or exactly what's happening in the world economic markets. So I think the more we can use technology to help our clients achieve their goals, monitor their goals, measure their goals, the more I think they're going to feel successful, and we're going to be successful in helping them.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Bruce, for joining me today. This has been wonderful chatting with you. And
Thank
I appreciate your insights into technology, into trust, and kind of how you utilize those in your day to day. And clearly, you've been quite successful in leveraging that. And so appreciate your time.
No, it's truly been my pleasure, Alex. And anytime I can drink a Guinness with you and talk about technology, I'm happy to do so. So
Cheers to that.
cheers to that.